Good day. I am here to examine Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs uh, es- and explain how his concepts impact a student's ability to learn, as well as support the need for teachers to pay particular attention to these factors. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory of motivation in psychology proposed by Abraham Maslow himself, in his 1943 paper captioned A Theory of Human Motivation in Psychological Review. Okay, so for Maslow, the most basic of needs must be met before the individual desires greatly for the next in the hierarchy of needs. This theory has a serious link with the set of children who are known to be the millennials. The question is, who are the millennials? Many researchers report that millennials are those children who were born between 1982 and the year 2004. The labeled millennials because the labeled millennials they were the first generation to reach adulthood in the 21st century. Okay, so today, millennial students fill our classrooms, especially in the high schools and universities, and they are more in number. Millennials were the first to grow up with computers in almost every household because every household have internet access, which provided them with the instant ability to download music, you know, and talk to friends via text messages, instant messages, and obtain information at the moment's notice on their smartphones, which has made them multi-takers. Being extremely tech savvy has led them to see technology at school as inadequate, if not up to date. They expect teachers to use technology as a part of learning process. So millennials will absorb information at a fast rate and teach and reach boredom quicker when subjected to old traditional teaching methods. Okay, so of course, it is imperative that today's educators understand these generations and the impact society has had on their lives. Now, according to Abraham Maslow, the physiological and the safety needs must be satisfied first before the longing of the other needs like love, esteem, and self actualization. Okay, so from this strand, he created a classification system which reflected the universal needs of society as its base and then proceeding to more acquired emotions. He used the terms physiological, safety, belongings, and love, social needs, or esteem, and self actualization to describe the pattern through which human motivation generally moves. So, this means that in order for motivation to arise at the next stage, each stage must be satisfied with the individual themselves. Okay, the goal in Maslow's theory is to attain the fifth level of stage. And this stage is called the self actualization stage. This was expressed in his 1954 book, titled Motivation and Personality. For the above, we see that Maslow's theory of motivation, as it is seen in his hierarchy of needs, is aimed at self actualization, which follows a hierarchical ladder. In this sense, destitution or poverty could serve as an obstruction to actualizing this objective when the physiological safety needs are not met for those coming from economically poor background. Okay, hence, economy can serve as a stumbling block or hindrance to achieving self-actualization, of which the whole project of Maslow hinges upon. When physiological needs are not assured and provided, the student finds it difficult to concentrate or study in the classroom. Okay, so the physiological needs of food and water must be provided and assured before any learning or disposition for learning can take place. In this way, when these factors are not adequately addressed, they become impediment in the learning process as we have it. Okay, so it does not stop when the physiological needs are served. The safety needs come to play because a child should first be assured of his safety before he can dream or desire goals. Okay, these safety needs are satisfied, must be satisfied. Okay, many children who do not perform well in classes may have been stunted in their intellectual, social, and moral growth because they have not satisfied basic needs. So to do this, teachers should have to try to know their students by name and on one-on-one basis, which is very, very necessary. They should have their attention on the details of how all the fundamental needs of these children are provided. Okay. In a place like Nigeria, a conscientious teacher begins his or her lectures every morning with questions like this one. Hope you ate well today. Or what did you eat today? So in schools where children of the rich come to school with food flasks, the children of the poor may also be assisted with the permission of the student's owner, and the parents share from the meal of the rich. This will foster integration and the required share faith and purpose. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we have up to 85% of children under the poverty line and up to 41 million poor children. These statistics tells us how many children that are struggling to meet up with the fundamental hierarchy of needs as highlighted by Abraham Maslow himself. This situation is one of the contributing factors to the low level of academic motivation and success in a country like Nigeria in West Africa. I think this inability to meet up with the fundamental hierarchy of needs in physiological and safety needs can explain the high rate of low self-esteem among Nigerian students and youth. This is why we have many unfulfilled adults who have not actualized their dreams. Thus, they become sad and angry, and this explains the portrait of common Nigerian man of today, an angry man. So here now we have some references like a theory of human motivation in psychological review. Okay, so this is a paper written by Abraham Maslow in 1943, from where he originally developed his theory of the hierarchy of needs. This paper first appeared in the Psychological Review, which is a scientific journal that published articles on psychological theory. The Psychological Review publishes articles that make important theoretical contributions to any area of scientific psychology. Preference is given to papers that advance theory. From this strand, we can understand the publication of Abraham Maslow's theory in this journal because of the novel theory of motivation it advocated. In this paper, Maslow held that the integrated wholeness of the organism must be one of the foundation stones of motivation theory. He stated that practically all the states are to be understood as motivated as motivating. From this postulation, Maslow listed his hierarchy of needs, beginning with the physiological, safety, love, esteem, and then self-actualization. For him, every motivation theory should be human-centered, rather than animal-centered. In relation to our paper, we see the economic needs falls within the ambience of the physiological and safety needs, which form the basis of the hierarchical ladder of needs. This could explain the reason why governments are charged primarily to see to the physiological and safety needs of the people through securing life and property. However, when this primary duty of government is neglected or not actualized, it becomes a hindrance and the obstacle to the actualization of the ultimate aim or purpose of self actualization. This is why the ability of children from poor economic background may be deterred when government or through parents and guardians their economic needs are not met. Okay. In fine, the ability of students are to a great extent determined by economic variables which can come in form of physiological and then safety needs. Okay. The next one is motivation and personality. Motivation and Personality is a book on psychology by Abraham Maslow, first published in 1954. This book is a follow up to a paper he presented in 1943 titled A Theory of Human Motivation that appeared first in the Journal of Psychological Review. Maslow's book is perhaps the best known contemporary work on human needs. Maslow postulated a hierarchical pyramid of human needs, stretching from basic physical needs at the bottom to spiritual or transcendental needs at the top. Maslow's work deals with the subject of the nature of human motivation and fulfillment. Okay, so it also treats the significance of personal relationship, implementing a conceptualization of self actualization. In this book, Maslow established that physiological drives are starting point for motivation theory, and from the foundation, other needs, including safety, love, esteem, and self actualization are built. In line with our paper, Maslow argues that in order for individuals to thrive and excel, a health fostering culture must be created. Maslow is almost the psychological theorist who believed that when parents fail to provide a safe, nurturing environment, their children will develop deep feeling of insecurity which will hamper their learning abilities. Maslow considers human beings to be energized by an actualizing tendency and believes that well-being occurs to the extent people can freely express their inherent potentials. In fine, economic needs can greatly affect the physiological and safety needs of children under the age of learning, and in such situation, the aim, which is self-actualization, becomes impossible to actualize. So, welcome, Dr. Brenda Dewuna. With me here is Dr. Brenda Dewuna, the field moderator and educator to my research and studies. So, we are here to examine issues on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs in relation to the millennial students. So, he's the moderator, he talks to me, then maybe at the end of it, if I have a few questions, then I will ask him. So, you're welcome. Happy to have you. So,
Um, according to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are five basic needs a teacher must have to meet in order to ensure the active performance of the millennial child. Now, an effective teacher, designs curriculum or learning techniques for the millennial child, bearing in mind having the students in mind first of all, knowing too well that the students come to the learning environment with different attitudes and behaviors. Now, this enables the teacher to engage him or herself properly in bringing out the programs, in bringing out the curriculum, in bringing out the learning techniques. You must have to consider these attitudes, these attitudes of the millennial children in order to suit each one of them, one after the other. Now, there are certain things the teacher must have to put into consideration, which are the student's needs, the student's background, and then the student's interest. Having these three perspectives in mind, I think the teacher can, in a big way, meet meet the meet the target, meet the and then assure him or herself a good performance towards the millennial child. Now, he can also incorporate the millennial students. The teacher can also incorporate this millennial by giving each one of them opportunity to ask questions, when they don't understand. Some may not want to feel, some may feel shy, but giving them that opportunity to ask, no matter what the question looks like, will enable them to feel free, to feel accepted, instead of allowing those who are intelligent to be performing in class while leaving the average ones not to ask questions in class. This will incorporate them. Now, it will also enable the teacher to understand the millennial students more, then it will give them self-assurance, self-actualization, just as the fifth hierarchy of needs of Maslow's demands of us.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah, in your explanation, you talked about the economic needs of these children. Okay, the economic needs of these children, how it can affect this. So I want to know more. How can these economic needs impact the ability of these millennial children?
The economic needs are very much important in the learning ability of the millennial child. They can impact positively or negatively on the child. For example, in our context here in Nigeria, whereby a parent will have to make some sales with the child in the morning before going to school. Before going to school, definitely, you need not to be told that the child has already been affected because of the poverty line of the environment here. A child who who is who is sick and lacks a good hospital for treatment, because number one, there will be no money to treat the child. That invariably impairs the child, or it may also reduce the time the child may recover and then go back to school. With a child who okay, let me stop there for now.
Okay, good. Okay, I understand that. Apart from the economic needs, there are other needs, as enumerated by Abraham Maslow himself. So, among those needs, we have the physiological needs. So, why is it this physiological needs is seen as like being the fundamental, one of the fundamental needs, according to Abraham Maslow? So, why is it most fundamental needs of a child?
Yes, they are not only the most fundamental, but they are the most basic: food, shelter, and the clothing.
Okay.
Now, without the child eating, the millennial child without eating will most certainly not learn in the classroom. Will definitely be weak, will not pay attention, and may end up sleeping in the classroom. The attention will not be there because of this basic need. So the teacher will, in his or her own way, will have to find out from the behavior of the child in the classroom. The teacher will have to be sensitive. We will have to be sensitive And that is why in some places, we can have alternative situations whereby a child who doesn't eat before coming to the class, the teacher can provide something for the child at least that can sustain the child within the study period. So you now discover that food is a basic need of the child. It will engender the child's performance before entering the classroom, because without that food, without that basic provision of food, the child will not perform even before entering the classroom, because the child will be weak completely. Then a child who a child whose parents are poor, or who lives where they live and where they go to school, where they live and where they go to school are very far from each other, maybe because of problem of housing, a housing problem. Now the child will be forced to either trek to school, or remain at the mercy of passers-by, whom the child will now beg to drive him or her to school. So at the end of the day, you now see that if those basic amenities, those basic needs are not met, the child will not be motivated. Maybe the child will go to school today and may not go the next day. So it will definitely have some advantages and disadvantages on the millennial child.
Okay, so we have various needs according to Maslow now, and it looks like all those needs are really very important for a millennial child to grow academically speaking. So, but so in any case, how best can the ability of the student be enhanced? I mean, the ability of this millennial student be enhanced. Considering all these needs we have seen in Maslow's research.
Yes, we may not have a complete enhancement. We may not meet all the needs. One may not necessarily meet all the needs. You may meet one at some time, as then meet the other at some other time. But at least those basic ones, and then attention. Those basic ones, one, should be met. Then attention should be given to the student. Attention should be given to the student on either enhancing him or herself personally, or encouraging the parents of the child to meet some of those needs, because until those needs are met, the child will not be motivated, the child will not be reinforced. Something has to motivate them to learn, something has to motivate them to perform well, both in the classroom and then in the society.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Brendan. I'm so happy to have you around.